Ciao Juventini of the world, my name is Giuseppe, welcome back on the channel. We have to speak about Paul Pogba. Unfortunately, I want to add, we are obliged to speak about the situation Paul Pogba, that yesterday it was confirmed was tested positive to the anti-doping test and at the moment is suspended. I will give you all the details, the possible consequences for him and what Juventus can do about the situation. And you know you have a lot of questions about it, so we'll go step by step. And to not be interrupted at a certain moment when I will try to speak and explain the situation, I'm asking you at the beginning of the video to put a maximum of like. I know it is international break, less likes, less views on the last few videos that we recorded. By the way, yesterday, interesting video, first about the club that was according to some fake news for sales, and then a second video about highest salary. That is really a really great video where I study a lot. Unfortunately, it came at the same time of the news of Paul Pogba. So if you can, please put a maximum of like, continue to subscribe to the channel if you didn't yet, because now we will speak. Well, yesterday around 5:30 p.m. Italian time, I received a notification that possibly, because at that time it was not confirmed yet, possibly Paul Pogba would have tested positive to testosterone. A lot of questions when I read that news. I can't believe it. I don't understand what is happening. Where is it coming from? For the game of the 20th of August, which game is it? Udinese. He didn't play against Udinese, but it's true that I remember that he was on the bench. Being on the bench, that means that you are on the sheet, on the match sheet, on that paper that you are preparing and giving to the official referees of that game. So you are registered. And from that moment on, every single player that is on that page can be asked to do the anti-doping test, which he did after the game. Ragazzi, my first initial thoughts when I read that tweet is, mamma mia. We just closed the chapter of the off-the-field topics. We could possibly start again concentrating on the field with 7 points out of 9. We're trying to go with excellence because we wanted a 9 on 9 and we wanted even better performances. We were scared about Paul Pogba being again injured, and it was something that we said relieved. He could possibly be on the bench against Lazio. We were again speaking about some positivity about Federico Chiesa, and no. Another story. During international break, some people told me in the beginning of the week, of end of last week, Beppe, how can you find every single day inspiration to speak about new topics about Juve? Well, I can tell you that this one I would have loved to avoid it. That was my first thought. Brand damaged about off-the-field topics. The second thought, and that goes immediately, is about Paul. And I'm not speaking about Pogba. I'm speaking about Paul, the human being, the person, the man, the father, the kid. I'm speaking about Paul, remembering how difficult the period has been for him, and that was another unnecessary story to add to the story of Paul Pogba back to Juventus. And my third thought immediately goes to the tifosi. Because today I am also a tifoso. I'm speaking as a supporter. I'm not an expert of laws. I'm not an expert of medicine. I don't know about doping. I don't know about testosterone. I'm speaking about my feeling as a supporter. And of course, when I'm thinking about all of us supporters, well, we didn't deserve another story. We didn't deserve, again, to feed anti-Juve people with negativity around our club. This, we are speaking in this case about the player, Paul Pogba, not about Juventus as a club, but of course, it's a player from Juve, so they are linked. And this kind of story, I didn't want our supporters to have to go through again. I didn't want to wake up today on the 12th of September speaking again about a dirty story. Ragazzi, you know my perception, and speaking about it in this video, I will tell you in the beginning because that's important to state as well. For me, people are not guilty until proven. So we'll have to try to understand where we are at that moment because we don't have so many elements to give a judgment. Because yesterday I saw on social media already so many fingers that were pointing, so many already conclusions, also from experts from television that were already saying it's enough, out, has been a disaster, how can you do something like that? Already pointing finger like Pogba is 100% guilty, intentionally was taking doping, and this is at the moment not the case. So pay attention, calma, let's understand where we are. On the other side, I understand the anger of the tifosi. Because we know what we went through since his announcement as a comeback, as a Pogba. We already had some doubts if he could be back the Paul 1.0. Well, the Paul 2.0 is at the moment a real disaster. From his comeback to Juventus and the beautiful interviews, well, going to USA for that tour after the first game in training session, having a first injury, taking bad decisions, because we know it, he didn't go immediately to surgery, while the entire entourage staff of Juventus were telling him, recommending him to do so. He didn't, pushing back and having extra problems. And we know it, in 22-23, we didn't see Paul Pogba on the field until the end of the season, where after a few parts of game, he was ready to play, or that's what we were thinking from the first minute against Cremonese, another injury that stopped his season. This season is coming back, and after I already told you that moment of, he's not injured, we can have him on Lazio, we have that story. In the meanwhile, we don't forget all the mental problems about his private situation, with the story about Mattias, his brother, and so on. So for the Tifosi, it's again another story that you put on Paul Pogba that is again super, super annoying, and that we didn't want to. I told you about Gazzetta dello Sport, Incubo Pogba, Nightmare Pogba. But if yesterday evening I didn't record immediately a video, is because I wanted to go towards the title of Tuttosport. Pogba, facci capire. Pogba, make sure that we understand. Let us know what happened. Because at the moment we don't know. And that's important. Before pointing fingers, before going with break the contract, sell him to Saudi Arabia, which makes totally no sense, because you can't just sell to Saudi Arabia. It's the end of the mercato. And then if he's banned, if possibly he would be banned, it's not that he can go and play in another league. But anyway, you know, I want to understand, and that's what I want to do now together with you. Corriere dello Sport is giving us the only thing that we know at the moment, Pogba. It is doping, because yesterday the official news came also reported by Romeo Agresti. We spoke about it also on his channel during the live yesterday. Paul Pogba precautionary suspended by the National Anti-Doping Court. Positive to testosterone metabolites. So what do we learn here? What do we know here? That yes, he has been tested positive, and that at the moment he is stopped, he is suspended. What are the steps that will follow? What are the possibilities that can follow from all that story? First of all, it is official, he has been suspended, so he will not be there against Lazio, and probably not until further notice. But how can we know what the further notice is? Well, he will have to do a counter analysis. That's a request by the player himself, not by the club. Just also to show you that when an individual has been proven positive to doping, it's not a request of the player, of the club, sorry, but it's the individuality. It's the individual, it's the person that has to make the steps, which yesterday already confirmed by the agent Pimenta they will do. Then from that moment on, with that counter analysis, we will see if the positivity is confirmed or the negativity will be said. If it's negative, well, all good. We forget about that story, even if, again, the image it's not a beautiful one, but we will be able to reintegrate Paul Pogba. The problem is that it can take long before having the counter analysis. So when will we see Pogba? If it's negative, we don't know. Can be in 4 weeks, can be in 6 weeks, can be in 3 months, we don't know. If unfortunately it's proven that the tests were valid and that it's positive, well, you have different things. You will have to understand the origin of the problem. How did it happen? There are already some people, because I told you I'm not an expert, I don't know, that are already giving some probabilities. Damascelli, that yesterday said that our club would be sold, he said yesterday that Pogba took anti-inflammatories and that were already listed and accepted by the doctors. Well, how does he know? I have absolutely no idea. Again. Then Professore Enrico Castellazzi, live yesterday on streaming, said taking testosterone by mistake is possible. Usually it could happen through ointments or gels that are mistakenly considered harmless. So sometimes you can use a gel that you are thinking it's without problem, I'm using it, and you have some testosterone in it. Well, if they can prove that it was taken by accident, he can even risk up to 2 years ban. So even if it was not intentionally taken by accident, you can maybe face until 2 years of ban. If he can't prove it, and if they come to the conclusion that it was intentionally, it can even be up to 4-year bans. In both scenarios, Juve has the right to stop the payment of the salary of the player for the entire stop. Then there is another thing explained by Tuttosport and Guido Vassiago, that we can't at the moment even exclude a contract termination. I don't know what's written in the contract of Paul Pogba, but that has been said by Guido Vassiago. So you have the stop of payment of salary, but you can even possibly, you can't exclude the fact that you can break the contract. What is the position of the club since yesterday? The club officially communicated that indeed Juventus club is announcing yesterday that the footballer Paul Pogba precautionary has been suspended in the order of the National Anti-Doping Tribunal. The club reserved the right to consider the next procedural steps. Really short message and club statement for the club. A lot of people said, Beppe, how is it possible? We were expecting more news. Well, wait. It's normal that Juventus is going with a really short message. Why? Because Juventus is also waiting for more news. They have been informed yesterday about the case. They are already sure and 100% sure that they are not responsible for it, but they try to understand what happened, waiting for the counter-analysis as well. Juventus is sure, like Gazzetta dello Sport, that they didn't do any wrongdoing. So putting actually a bit of responsibility on Paul Pogba. But it's true that it's a really cold statement, because here you don't see the Juventus going next side by side with Paul Pogba saying, we are sure 100% he did not do anything, we will support the player 100%. No, you see that Juventus is waiting, but reserves the right to consider next procedural steps. Let's see. Wait and see. I believe it is the right decision to take from a football club. When you don't know, you want to wait. The same thing that I did yesterday, not going immediately to recording the video, but waiting a bit to understand a bit more. What is the agent saying? Yesterday she came out speaking to Tuttosport. Paul non ha voluto infrangere le regole. What does that mean? We know by sure that Paul Pogba didn't want to break the rules. So she's not there to say Paul didn't do anything. No, Paul didn't want to break the rules. And we will have to wait until the counter-analysis to take again the word, to speak about it. Is it a hard situation? Absolutely yes. What can I tell you about the substance testosterone? Again, I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you that much. I don't even go to the gym. I don't go with a, muscular increase. But testosterone is something that is produced by our body, especially with the men, a small part by the women as well. But that's the natural testosterone. Then you have the synthetic testosterone, and that's something that is actually helping to augment, to increase the muscular mass, decrease the fat that you have in your body, but is also helping to grow with the red globules that you have in your body, helping also the transport, the ways of the oxygen. What does that mean? That it's not something that will make you, perform super well. Well, it can have for a really minimal impact, but the most important thing is that it's reducing fatigue. It's not something that is helping you to recover from muscular problems, but it's helping you to reduce fatigue. More than that, I don't know. I can finish speaking about Paul Pogba, about did it already happen with other players? The last time it happened to a Juve player, it happened with Edgar Davids. We are speaking about 20 years ago. Now, the last recent story is about Palomino, not to testosterone, but when they said that he was not negative, so it was positive to the anti-doping test, Palomino from Atalanta was accused and has been stopped for 4 months. That's what it took him to prove that it was actually unconsciously, that he took a gel, I believe, where he has been proven not guilty and could take part again to the active situation of his football club, participating and playing again. So you have the possibility that everything will be not forgotten, but put aside and the player coming back. Of course, they are really complicated story. And also for the player Palomino, the court wants to go, or actually the accusation want to go to another court, to the TAS di Losanna. So even there, it's not a story that easily you can put a point and forget about it. You don't forget this kind of story. So when will we happen? What everything will happen with Paul Pogba? At the moment, we don't know. We will have to wait. The only thing that we can also know is, in a worst case scenario, Paul Pogba can have a 4-year ban. 4-year bans, which means the end of the career. The end of the career for Paul Pogba, because with all the injuries already has, he's already 30 years old, can be really a worse thing. And as, again, Gazzetta dello Sport was putting, incubo Pogba, nightmare Pogba. Few flash news, but really fast now. Yesterday I already made a video, I already told you, Elkann and the owners of Exor, they said and they repeated, Juventus is not for sale. A lot of people are speaking about the rumors of minority entries into the club with shares so that they can put cash in. At the moment, also these kind of voices have been denied. I repeat, Exor is owner of Juventus for 63.8%. At the moment, voices denied of selling the club and also for a minority entry. Can that happen in the future? Maybe. The good news of what happened yesterday is we had the result of Federico Chiesa with his test, and in his case the tests were negative, not to doping, but about his slightly injury in national team, and he could be there against Lazio. If not from the first minute, at least on the bench, which is a fantastic news. A lot of people ask me, Beppe, if he's not starting, can we see possibly Yildiz? I don't believe so. By the way, today Yildiz is playing against Miretti. Turkey against Italy under 21. It's a game that if I'm finding it on television, I will absolutely follow. But no, it will not be Yildiz that was not able to train with the team. Probably I'm thinking in a Moise Kean. Other news, and that today I will really follow, is Locatelli, that has a big chance to start with Italy and to prove as well that he's a player that can also work really well. Winning a bit of self-esteem, a new word that yesterday Romeo Agresti on his channel, I teached him because he didn't know what was self-esteem. So self-esteem could be an important part for Locatelli that we can have with a big smile playing from the first minute against Lazio, because he will be there. Then the bad news, unfortunately, is that USA said no to the early return of McKennie and Weah, so they will arrive a few hours before the game against Lazio. Not enough to think that they could be starters. That's why we have the solution of Cambiaso to the right side with Kostic on the left. Kostic that will start again training with Dusan Vlahovic, with Milik, with Chesney today in La Cantinasa with the other players. What about Rabiot? We'll have to wait for him. He will join us. He's a starter against Lazio without any doubt. Rabiot that is continuing to speak about his renewal for even more years. We already spoke about that yesterday, so if we have more news about that, I will tell you. But the good news is that Juventus wants to anticipate. Giuntoli doesn't want to arrive at the end of June again like last year with the situation. Do we want, or do we have the possibility to extend him, yes or no? They want to anticipate, and from what is actually filtering from the sources of the entourage of the Frenchman, looks like he does also agree to go with anticipation instead of waiting. Let's see what will happen. Ragazzi, these were the news for me. I told you a lot of news about Paul Pogba, situation that I would have loved to avoid. I don't know what will happen. I'm praying that the test will be negative, even if it will be difficult. But let's see, and then let's listen to the explanation. Because if Tuttosport was starting with Pogba, facci capire, Pogba, let us know. Make sure that we understand. This is what I want to know before jumping and pointing and saying because of him this is what we have to do. I want to understand. Comments in the comment section of YouTube, you know that's also helping the channel, and I'm curious to read you. Grazie, forza, Juve.